Having fallen victim to Marc Marquez's brutality, Francesco Bagnaia received support from Alex Marquez. The 2025 Austrian Grand Prix unfolded as a nightmare for Francesco Bagnaia, a rider who once embodied Ducati's pride and resilience. At the Red Bull Ring, a circuit where he had built a legacy of dominance, the Italian champion encountered a cruel reversal of fortune. Instead of celebrating yet another commanding performance, he found himself questioning his abilities, his confidence, and even his role within the Ducati hierarchy. The shadows of past glory loomed over him, only intensifying the sting of defeat. Spielberg had always been kind to Bagnaia. His riding style, smooth, precise, and calculating, seemed tailored for the high-speed straights and technical sections of the Austrian track. Fans had grown accustomed to seeing him thrive there, carving through corners with elegance and finishing on the podium with consistency. But in 2025, that reputation collapsed like a fragile illusion, leaving behind nothing but doubt and disbelief. The sprint race on Saturday offered Bagnaia his first chance to silence critics and re-establish control over his season. Yet fate intervened in the harshest of ways. A technical failure with his Ducati forced him to retire, not because of mistakes in riding, but because the machinery betrayed him. The disappointment was written all over his face as he walked back to the paddock, helmet in hand, knowing that his opportunity to build momentum had been stolen. When Sunday arrived, Bagnaia's fans clung to hope. Starting from third on the grid, he was still in prime position to challenge for a podium or even victory. Analysts pointed out that, despite his sprint race misfortune, Bagnaia's pace in practice sessions had been encouraging. This was supposed to be his chance for redemption, his opportunity to remind the world why he had 2 MotoGP world titles to his name. But as the lights went out and the race began, something seemed fundamentally wrong. Bagnaia's launch wasn't disastrous, but it lacked the aggressive punch that once defined his starts. Instead of fighting to maintain his place among the leaders, he began to slip backward, unable to defend himself against the relentless attacks from rivals. The champion looked human, vulnerable, and unsure. Lap after lap, the struggle deepened. His Ducati wobbled in corners, his lines seemed hesitant, and the confidence that once radiated from his body language was missing. Fans watching from the stands could sense his frustration, their cheers turning into anxious silence. By the halfway mark of the race, it was clear that Bagnaia was not going to challenge for victory. When the checkered flag finally waved, Bagnaia rolled across the finish line in 8th place. For most riders, a top 10 finish at the pinnacle of motorsport would still be a respectable result. But for a 2-time world champion and Ducati's former golden boy, it was a bitter pill to swallow. The contrast between him and his teammate Marc Marquez could not have been more brutal. Marquez, the relentless competitor nicknamed the Ant-Man, was untouchable. He rode with fire, precision, and a hunger that seemed impossible to match. While Bagnaia battled with self-doubt, Marquez danced with the Ducati as if they had been partners for years. His victory in Austria was not just another win, it was a statement of dominance. The paddock buzzed with conversations after the race, and most of them revolved around the disparity between Ducati's 2-star riders. On one side was Marquez, the veteran who had revived his career with terrifying consistency. On the other was Bagnaia, a champion who looked like he was shrinking under the weight of expectation. The narrative was shifting, and it was not in his favor. For Bagnaia, this was more than a bad weekend. It was a psychological blow that reached deeper than the point standings. The Red Bull Ring had been his fortress, and to falter there meant losing one of the last strongholds of his identity as Ducati's king. Even he must have wondered if he had reached a turning point in his career. Yet, amid the swirl of criticism and doubt, one rider stood up to defend him. Surprisingly, it was Alex Marquez, the younger brother of Marc, and a competitor who rode for the satellite Gresini Ducati team. Alex's words carried weight not only because of his experience, but also because of his perspective as someone who knew what it meant to live in the shadow of greatness. Alex had endured his own share of struggles in MotoGP. He had been compared endlessly to his brother, questioned at every turn, and faced moments where nothing seemed to work. His empathy for Bagnaia wasn't just polite, it was genuine, born from personal battles that mirrored the Italian's current plight. Maybe he feels blocked. I've been there too, Alex admitted in a candid interview. He explained how riders sometimes reach a point where they don't know what adjustments to make, or what to change in order to improve. In those moments, he said, answers rarely come easily. Instead, self-doubt creeps in, making every decision harder than it should be. The honesty in his words stood out. MotoGP is often painted as a sport of bravado, where riders project strength at all times. But Alex peeled back that facade, acknowledging the mental fragility that even world champions must confront. His comments humanized the struggle Bagnaia was enduring, reminding fans that behind the helmets and leathers were individuals wrestling with pressure. He's racing at the top. The feeling is crucial. Maybe he just needs one good weekend or one victory, Alex continued. His belief was that Bagnaia's situation was not about a lack of ability, but about rediscovering the sensation of control and confidence. The right result at the right time could unlock everything once again. It was a reminder that momentum is everything in MotoGP. One race can send a rider spiraling downward, but another can launch them back into contention. Alex's faith in Bagnaia wasn't blind optimism. It was rooted in the understanding of how fragile, yet powerful, a rider's mindset could be. He's not far from it, Alex assured. This weekend, he was strong in every session. He just needs one moment where everything goes right. His words painted Bagnaia not as a fallen champion, but as one waiting for a spark to reignite the fire. It was a hopeful perspective in a sea of doubt. Alex concluded his thoughts with perhaps the most powerful statement of all. He is a champion. I see him as a great champion, and he always will be. It was both a compliment and a challenge, a way of reminding Bagnaia of the identity he seemed to be forgetting. In the high-stakes world of MotoGP, where rivalries often dominate headlines, Alex's show of solidarity was refreshing. He didn't need to defend Bagnaia, especially considering his own brother was the man overshadowing him. Yet he did so anyway, displaying sportsmanship that transcended team colors. Fans noticed. On social media, messages of respect flooded in, praising Alex for speaking with empathy and honesty. Many acknowledged how difficult it must have been for him to voice support for his brother's fiercest rival. But his sincerity was undeniable, and it struck a chord with audiences around the globe. For Bagnaia, those words might mean more than any technical adjustment or strategy meeting. MotoGP is as much about mental resilience as it is about speed, and knowing that a fellow rider believed in him could help him rediscover his confidence. Sometimes, champions just need to be reminded of who they are. Yet the challenges ahead remain daunting. Marc Marquez is not slowing down, and his momentum feels unstoppable. Each race he wins adds more pressure to Bagnaia's shoulders, widening the gap between the two riders both on the track and in perception. The psychological toll of chasing a runaway teammate is immense. Inside the Ducati Lenovo garage, tensions are likely simmering. Bagnaia was once the undisputed leader, the face of the project, the man Ducati placed its faith in. Now, that spotlight has shifted, illuminating Marquez's resurgence while casting Bagnaia into shadow. For a rider of his caliber, such a shift is not easy to accept. The media, of course, feeds on the narrative. Headlines speak of a changing of the guard, of Marquez dethroning Bagnaia within his own team. Every mistake Bagnaia makes becomes magnified. Every victory by Marquez turns into another layer of pressure. It is the cruel cycle of elite sport, where perception often dictates reality. Still, history has shown that great champions find a way to respond. Valentino Rossi endured slumps before returning stronger. Jorge Lorenzo reinvented himself after being written off. Even Marc Marquez, after years of injury and setbacks, has reemerged as a force of nature. Bagnaia, too, has the chance to script his own comeback. The question is whether he can summon the mental fortitude to do so. The physical ability is undoubtedly still there. His qualifying pace and practice sessions prove as much. But converting speed into results requires clarity, confidence, and fearlessness. At the moment, those seem to be the qualities eluding him. Ducati, for their part, will need to play a role in this redemption arc. Technical reliability must improve. The issues that plagued Bagnaia's sprint race cannot be allowed to repeat. The team will also need to ensure that Bagnaia feels supported, even as Marquez continues to grab headlines. Balancing two alpha riders is a delicate task. For fans, this evolving drama adds spice to an already thrilling season. Every weekend now feels like a referendum on Bagnaia's ability to withstand the storm. Will he collapse under pressure, or will he rise from the ashes to reclaim his throne? The intrigue is irresistible. Many supporters remain loyal, remembering the glory of Bagnaia's championship runs. They argue that form is temporary, but class is permanent. To them, Bagnaia's slump is just another chapter in a larger story, one that will eventually include a stirring comeback. Others, however, believe the balance of power has shifted for good. They see Marquez's dominance as the beginning of a new era, one where Bagnaia plays second fiddle. For these observers, the Austrian Grand Prix was not an anomaly, it was the new reality. Regardless of which perspective proves true, the emotional weight of Bagnaia's struggle cannot be ignored. Watching a champion falter is both painful and compelling, reminding fans of the fragility of greatness. In MotoGP, glory is never guaranteed. It must be fought for, over and over again. Marquez's comments stand out because they acknowledge this human dimension. His empathy bridges the gap between rivals, offering Bagnaia a form of validation that statistics alone cannot provide. Sometimes, the right words at the right time can be as powerful as any victory. It's easy to forget that MotoGP is not just about machines and lap times. It's about courage, fear, triumph, and despair. Riders carry the weight of expectations not only from their teams but from entire nations of fans. In that context, Bagnaia's struggles become a window into the soul of the sport. For Ducati, the stakes are immense. Their image, their dominance, and their future trajectory hinge on how their two riders coexist. Can they manage the fire of Marquez while reigniting the flame of Bagnaia? Or will internal competition tear apart the balance they've worked so hard to build? As the season progresses, every race will feel like a test of character for Bagnaia. Each corner he takes, each overtake he attempts, will be scrutinized. Every result will either strengthen or weaken the fragile confidence he is fighting to restore. The coming rounds will define his narrative. Will he crumble, confirming the fears of those who say he is fading? Or will he rise, proving that champions are defined not by their falls, but by their comebacks? The tension is almost cinematic in its intensity. For Marc Marquez, this is a dream scenario. He thrives on competition, on proving doubters wrong, on seizing control of the storyline. But for Bagnaia, the presence of Marquez is both a curse and an opportunity. Beating him would restore glory instantly, while failing to do so deepens the wound. Fans are polarized. Some have switched allegiances, swept up in the romance of Marquez's resurgence. Others remain steadfast behind Bagnaia, refusing to abandon their champion in his darkest hour. The grandstands reflect this divide, echoing with cheers for both men, each roar charged with passion. Yet no matter the opinions, one truth stands. MotoGP 2025 has become unmissable because of this rivalry. The storyline of Bagnaia's slump and Marquez's rise, combined with Alex's empathetic intervention, gives the sport a layer of drama that transcends racing. It is sport at its most raw and compelling. And so, all eyes turn to the next race, waiting to see if Francesco Bagnaia can find that elusive moment of perfection. Perhaps it will come when least expected, a daring overtake, a flawless weekend, a victory that reignites belief. Until then, Marc Marquez's shadow looms large, and Alex Marquez's words linger. Bagnaia is still a champion, and champions are never truly finished.
Like, subscribe and comment.